Hey HBs, you're listening to Heaving Bosoms, the podcast where two best friends recap romance novels to stay connected over thousands of miles and sometimes relive the mid-2000s to various degrees of delight and horror. Our Patreon fundraiser to support the victims of Maui's wildfires is still going on, and it will be until September 18th. When you sign up during that time for a paid subscription or increase your pledge amount, we'll double that and donate it between the Maui Food Bank and the Maui Fire Relief Fund. And I'm so happy to say we've got a ton of shout outs for new members today. So, welcome to Rachel, Ailson S., Natalie R., Sophia G.J., Kate R., Autumn, Dinesh, Vanessa K., Katie VDB, hey Red, I miss you, hi! ST, Debbie S., Laura M., Mary Quite Contrary, how does your garden grow, hey girl, Abigail W., Krista H., Rachel Y., K., Oriana M., and Sarah S. I'm so glad that y'all have joined Patreon. Remember, we're going to be doubling your first month's pledge and donating it. Also, big news, you can now listen to the entire back catalog of Patreon episodes on Spotify, and I'll be posting directions on how to do that this week. They've also been making some other really cool changes that are going to help me organize the hundreds of episodes that we now have available in ways that are going to make them much more easily accessible. So I'm super stoked for that. Keep your eyes out. All right, y'all. Today, I might break some hearts, but I also think that it's been high time that we have a hate episode. Sabrina and I are recapping Dark Lover, the first book in the Black Dagger Brotherhood series by J.R. Ward. And it was a rough read in 2023. I came to it brand new. If you're interested in any of the hot takes, or especially the sources that are mentioned throughout the episode, make sure to check out the show notes. All right, you've been warned. Here we go.
Oh boy.
An hour later, hey girl.
Hey.
Listener, it's been a fucking day. I do have a life update for everyone. Would you like to know what it is?
Duh.
I live with a whistler now.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Which one?
Well, she's 4. She's a force to be reckoned with. She discovered whistling, and there's no stopping her. She found something she couldn't do. And then she sat there silently blowing through her lips. And a week later, she's the best whistler I've ever heard in my fucking life. And I'm really mad about it because it's all she does. And I want to support her in her dreams. But also, can you stop every once in a while? Please.
I would like a single millisecond of peace, please.
So here's how this complicated my this. All right. This is actually book related because listener, I have not been this riled up since I think pleasure. Okay. I am coming in hot. All right.
I hated this book.
I loathe this book at a level that has not happened in a very long time. And I think part of it is because I was so surprised by it because so many people that I love say good things about it. And then I was like, am I the asshole? And it turns out, no, I've just come to it too late. I've decided anyway.
So late. Way too late now.
Way too late. So not only did I really not like this book, but I'm going to say something that might be professionally damaging, and that is I also did not like the audiobook, and that was how I mostly had to read this book. And so not only Did I not like book? Did I not enjoy audiobook? But then the background to audiobook was just 4-year-old whistling. Okay? So, like, there are layers that I've been slogging through to get to this episode.
Like, maybe it wouldn't have been so bad if you had been in a soundless chamber exclusively eyeball reading.
I mean, maybe, but then when I did eyeball read, I realized that, like, I think J.R. Ward's love language is incomplete sentences, which, like, can be used every once in a while for an impact, but, like, not 70% of sentences that are in book.
Hey, girl, this book came out in 2005. It is a book of its times.
Did we not know how to construct sentences in 2005? For effect and for regular stuff?
Not in a gritty, dark romance novel.
Is it gritty? Is it dark? Is it not satire? These are my questions I have for you. Okay, I have to do a big disclaimer. Hello, listener. I don't know if you've gotten the gist yet, but I'm on a level that we haven't experienced for a while. If J.R. Ward's The Black Dagger Brotherhood series is a love that you cannot compromise on, I need you to make a choice for you right now and turn this shit off. Turn it off. You don't have to listen to me. I'll see you next week, maybe.
However, listener, I will be coming in to say
she loved book.
I had a deep, nostalgic love of this book read.
And honestly, this makes me so happy. This makes me feel so much better about, like, literally everything. Because not only do I want the contrasting opinions, obviously, but also I want to vicariously live on your joy. I want that for me.
Uh-huh. And I want you to have that too. I want you to have the joy that I felt when this was, because this, listener, for context, this was one of my first actual romance novels. I read this back in high school, like just a couple of years after it came out. I think there were maybe 7 or 8 books that were out when I started reading. And me and my friends, I lived in California, so we didn't trade weed like at lunch break in high school because we were all smoking weed anyway because it was California.
You traded romance books.
Yeah, we would trade these. I still remember. I'm not going to call her out by name, but I do still remember the person that would like come in and be like, "Hey, I got the next book in the series," and we'd all be like, and we like basically have to draw straws to see who got it next.
I love it.
I've read up through like 8 or 9 of this series because of that.
Yeah.
Multiple times I have read those books over a decade ago now.
And I dig it.
But I have a nostalgic love. Like reading this book from a 2023 lens, I very quickly went,
it's a bad idea.
That's not going to work. This book is not going to work if I'm reading it from a 2023 point of view. And so I dropped myself back into 2007, 2008 Sabrina. I'll be honest, this is not a book that I had my critical thinking hat on for.
Listen, it's fine. It's totally fine. I think the other issue is that I am not particularly nostalgic for roughly 2004 through 2007. So, like, that also doesn't help, you know? Like, this is so trucker hat era without having a single trucker hat in it that it's...
And shawls as skirts.
It's so much. Okay, but here I'm just going to list you some of my overall preference issues so that you can understand where I'm coming from, listener. First of all, I think I'm pretty on the record in the podcast for having a touch and go time with alpha heroes, okay? And like gender essentialism, bitch doesn't like it. I think that I'm pretty on the record for a lot of those things, especially like the gigormous man and the teensy tiny little lady situation. I think I'm on the record for those things. And like this is that turned up to 56. And if that is good for you, I fucking love that for you. But like the toxic masculinity and the gender essentialism And just the misogyny that happens all throughout it. And like at one point, the hero just yells, "Males protect! They are not protected!" And at another point, a lady that I actually like looks at her partner and she's like, "I'm a female. Crying at matings is basically in the job description."
Who said that? I don't remember that.
Wellesley!
Oh, yeah, I do remember that scene now.
Chapter 1 comes out swinging with fatphobia that I could not handle. There's so much no homo in this bullshit while being completely homoerotic. There's toxic sexuality in that all of the good and admirable characters are like conventionally attractive and like super virile. And then all of the big bads are literally impotent. Like all of the lessers are quote unquote males because also everybody's a male or a female, period, the end. They are males who literally don't have functioning phalluses, okay? The misogyny makes my skin crawl. So think about this. The evil beings in these books are literally emasculated men who smell like quote-unquote sissies, according to one prominent character, because all of them smell like baby powder. What the fuck is happening right now? Every single person in this book takes themselves so seriously. Everybody takes themselves so seriously while not speaking like an actual human. True? You feel me? Oh my God. And it's like exhausting because their culture makes no fucking sense. How are you a 300-year-old band of brothers of like fucking vampire Navy SEALs who then come out with like pimp juice and like, what is that? Why? Who says I'm outie when they're 400 years old? Who does that? It doesn't make any sense. It's totally incongruous. Okay, and also, there's a big piece of like white supremacy that like it smacks of white supremacy throughout this thing. Because they use the phrasing of the race and like the whole deal of the Brotherhood of Black Dagger Boys are protecting the race. And like she is called a half-breed multiple times. Here's the thing. I wanted
To be clear, listener, I'm not laughing. Melody is making very good points. I am dead right
I'm just
now.
fucking hilarious. Even when I'm just hopping mad.
I can't help but laugh because like Melody is absolutely right. But I did enjoy my trip down memory lane.
No, and that's fine. Like I said, I respect so many people who loved reading this book, especially back in those times. But like 2023 is rough.
It's
rough.
Rough.
But I say that, and then I have to immediately smack myself across the face because I want to be like, it's written in 2005 or whatever, right? But like, lots of people knew how dangerous and scary and overall dehumanizing white supremacy is, right? Like back in our high school days, it wasn't like white supremacy equal bad, like is a novel concept, right?
Accurate.
I don't know. Like, okay, I pulled a line for this. The balance could be thrown off in an instant in favor of the race's enemies. Their kind was flirting with extinction, partially because they're doing things like breeding with humans. What the fuck, everyone? The way that they talk about how she's I can't. It's a lot, everybody. It's a lot. Also, how can you be 300 years old and still stick to like this binary? Like, I'm sorry. If you're 300 years old, you're queer AF and you understand that gender is a construct. You know what I mean? Like, you have to, right? You've been around too long. Like, poor Marissa. Fucking hashtag justice for Marissa.
Dude, justice for Marissa.
And I found out, because boy, did I go down a rabbit hole of like just reading all the plot synopses. She doesn't get fucking justice because she ends up with a fictional character. I've never hated a fictional character more in my fucking life. And that includes like serious, like genociding villains.
Which is rough, yeah.
The worship and the apologizing for police fucking brutality in this book is really hard. Hard on this end of the temporal framework.
Yeah, I don't remember, like, 2007, that wasn't a thing, that, like, it was a thing. Obviously, it's always been a thing, but it wasn't a talked about thing. And, like, boy howdy, reading it in 2023 was...
And, like, I think that might be part of my problem is just, like, the so obviously privileged standpoint that this is coming from without any kind of interrogation is kind of making my skin crawl.
Yeah.
And I know that that's unfair because it was written in 2003 or 2004, but I don't know. It's rough the amount of times Butch is like, but don't they understand that when I do police brutality, it's for good reasons? No, Butch.
Yeah, that is one thing. Like, reading this book, so as much as I enjoyed dipping back into Black Dagger Brotherhood, boy fucking howdy, this first book, it was rough to swallow 90% of it. Like, while I was reading, I was like, oh, God, 17-year-old baby girl, you deserved better. But also, like, at 17, you don't know. Like, at 17, you don't know better.
Especially, like, with our backgrounds and everything, like, you know.
Yes. Yes.
It's easy. I can see the blind spots, and I can see how they can be glaring.
Well, and it's like, yeah.
Should we get into it? Because some of it was compulsively readable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, some of it less so. And I've talked about this beforehand, and this is another example of the first book in a series that's full of world building that I personally think suffers for the purpose of world building.
Oh.
I've said it before. I'll say it again. Like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry.
Why? Or were you doing a burp?
My seltzer was saying hello again.
Were you doing a big, unladylike burp?
You know it.
Sabrina, don't you know that dainty little humans like us ladies, we can't do burps?
Wrath would be horrified. To be clear, I am pretty sure that if any of those alpha holes, because that's what they are, if any of those alpha holes rolled up and saw me, like, they wouldn't be like, oh yeah, that's a dainty lady right there. She's so dainty.
No, and therefore, like, are we even, worth it or human at that point? You know what I mean? Like, are we even beings that need recognition?
They probably would think we're human because they don't like humans. So, like...
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, beings that need recognition. Yeah. Okay, listen, here we go. So, okay, there are two other things that I think... I'm so sorry, everyone. I just really had a hard time with this. And I think part of it is because I read it in audio and then I went back and read it with my eyeballs because, like, hello, audiobook producers out there. If a book starts with a glossary of terms, the audiobook should also start with that glossary of fucking terms.
Yeah.
I had no idea what the fuck was going on.
Talking about the lessers and the virgin scribe
There's a
and the Hellrens and the Lalinas.
Is a shellin? I can't. And then the other thing is, I don't understand the nomenclature. I don't understand the spelling choices. Okay?
For their names?
Yeah, because here's the thing, okay? If you're going to have Tohrment and Phury and all of these people,
why is Wrath spelled wrath?
Spelled like wrath. Is that just because he gets the royal treatment? Like, you don't get a stupid extra H if you're the king?
I like to think that it's because J.R. Ward knew that she was about to throw a lot at a lot of people, and so she's easing people in.
This is false. Fucking false. Nice try, Sabrina, but it smacks of bullshit. And, like, I am all for silliness, but it's not silliness. Everything in this is so self-serious.
I was literally laughing out loud at parts in this book. And I know that it wasn't supposed to make me feel that way, but, like, I couldn't help myself.
And then I also think I just wasn't interested in like going down an academic rabbit hole. And all of this term that I had to do for this book, like the payoff was not worth it for me.
Did you make yourself flashcards?
Basically. Okay, and also here's the other thing, J.R. Ward and audio producers and, you know, everybody else. You can't have a Phury and then describe the hero. There's a few times in that final confrontation when it talks about him like coming through the doors with fury or doing something fury or whatever. And I was like, is that guy there?
With
because
the
this is audio
book. Oh no. Yeah, I can see how that'd be confusing.
Big mad.
All right, so let's jump into this because we really just kind of get dropped into the shit like from the start, like immediately.
Don't worry,
because we wake up or wake up.
We're in Screamers, which is legitimately a great name for a club. 10 out of 10. Good job, J.R. Ward. Screamers. I want to go there.
I don't.
I
do. Not in this universe.
Fair. Oh my God. So listen, Darius wants Wrath to help with his half-breed daughter as she goes through her transition. And Tohrment is like, nah, bitch, that's a bad idea. Wrath hates a half-breed.
The vitriol that you are feeling right now, Melody, comes out in every breath that you fucking take. I was coming in like,
you were trying to be all level-headed.
I was like, here's the information about how we start. And Melody came in like, I'm about to pee on this and not to mark my territory, which is every single time. That's all I could think. This entire book, when they were talking about like marking their people, I was like, are you peeing?
How did he mark her? I still don't know how he marked her. Is it his spit? Is it his cum? But like, does he have the choice to mark her or not? Because like, he thought about not marking her, but does that mean he doesn't come inside her? Like, I'm very unclear on the. I'm
also confused. Just
general physiological workings.
Just go with the. Okay. Like this is the last book you're going to go with the flow on, but I'm asking you to go with the flow, Melody. You're sitting here with a magnifying glass, like looking at and I was like way up above the clouds, and I was like, oh look,
30,000 feet, baby.
There's a scene happening. How pleasant. Oh, that's questionable. I'm just gonna
mosey on
note
by
and whimsy on past it.
That's a much better way to do this. Good job. Yeah.
Well, right. I also, like I said, I did have 2007 rose-colored glasses. Just like I pulled them out of my back pocket, and I was like, I knew these would come in handy one day.
I love that for you. All right, so to be fair, Darius is sitting there, and he's like, I'm a proud papa who's never met my daughter, but I don't want her to die.
It's dangerous for her.
Yeah. I don't want her to die as she changes into a vampire, and the vampire with the strongest bloods is that purebred King Wrath.
The very last pure
He's a purebred
vampire.
So sorry. Anyway, Tohrment feels the same way, and Tohrment says, that's whacked. He says, that's whacked. Tohrment says WHACKED.
Oh my God,
neither
Mel,
J.R. Ward
this is a one episode.
Sorry, I'm not compromising on this. No, neither J.R. Ward nor any of her editors knew that it should not be in the past tense. And at that point, are you in the right swimming pool? Like, why? Sabrina? I
didn't even notice it. Just whimsying on that. So anyway, Tohrment's like, no, that's dummy dumb. Like, Wrath's not going to go for that. He fucking hates a human.
And then Darius thinks to himself, Wrath was off the chain when it came to the business of vengeance. But asking him to help her was like turning a virgin over to a thug. Did
you just fall to the ground? Oh my God, Melody!
I'm so so sorry. I feel like
No.
off the chain. It came to vengeance.
Yeah.
How old is Darius? Is he 600?
He's
is my
old.
question for you.
This is a great example. A great example of people not actually being hip with the times, but thinking that they're hip with the times. Because do you know how many times, I'm not even that old, and do you know how many times I like drop something that I think is like the cool thing to say, and then my younger siblings who are actually hip are like, oh, sister, no.
See, I only do that ironically because I've literally never been cool. Doesn't matter my age, I've never been cool, so I've learned to only do that ironically.
I don't. Yep. Yeah. Well, it starts ironically, but then it inevitably becomes an actual part of my vocabulary. And then I'm like, wow,
Incredible.
That's lit. I might have to bring back off the. There were a couple of phrases in this book that I was like, I might need to put that back in my vernacular. Like, I might enjoy saying those, like off the chain. I kind of want to start saying off the chain again.
Sabrina, our friendship is deep and it is strong. I don't know that it will survive you bringing off the chain back. I do.
Is it gonna Okay, I do have a question because I did do a shit kicker count in this book. And shit kicker was only said 5 times, even though it felt like it was said 100.
I think that's because of the way it's used in the rest of the books.
Well, this book felt like 500 times. But is our friendship going to survive the fact that I actually call my big black leather boot shit kickers?
Yeah, that's fine.
Is it fine because I'm not a 300-year-old vampire?
Yeah, that's a big fucking part of it. Yeah, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
That's all.
By the way, as I'm scrolling, I did like to note that I also highlighted the off the chain line. So you and I, same brain.
When it comes to vengeance.
Same brain. I'm sorry. No, not just when it comes to vengeance. When Wrath was off the chain, when it came to the business of vengeance.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Boy, howdy.
And that's when I knew he was a serious badass. You know? That was my... I knew it. Not all the leather that he wears.
It wasn't... I was just going to say, it wasn't his description with his... I saw these wraparound sunglasses and the fucking coat and the leather pants so vividly in my mind. I was a little bit like, Neo?
Yeah. I mean, and like Keanu is never not going to be hot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he's also not like 6'6" and wide as
twice
two barn
as
doors.
wide. Yeah.
Like I just don't know. You can't have all of it. You have to pick some things. Okay.
Yeah.
So
he's
yada,
like,
yada, yada. Hard no, Darius. Absolutely not. I'm not doing that.
And then he fucks off, and then Darius goes and gets in his car, and he tries to start it, and kaboom. Darius is dead. Bye-bye, baby.
Wow, he's super exploded. Because one thing that I thought was really interesting about this whole, lore is that vampires are still completely alive and they can be killed by like mortal wounds or whatever. So I thought the way she
in the book
twisted,
that they don't. Literally the only thing that's accurate is that they cannot go out in the sunlight and they drink blood. But even that's wrong because they don't drink human blood. We're getting back into that gender essentialism. Females can only drink male blood and males can only drink female blood.
And NBs are fucked.
Yeah, God forbid if you're not binary or like, or what if you're an intersex vampire? Like, then you're just, I can't decide if you'd be super fucked and you can't drink anybody's blood or you're living your best life and you can drink everybody's. But we're not gonna play that game because I promise you that was not even a flicker of a thought in anybody's mind, writing or editing or managing this book.
It certainly wasn't.
Although
and
I will say,
understandable.
I did end up with a line that is going to make it into my sayings.
Okay.
Because it was, somebody said, would you like me to give you a ride home? Butch says that to Lila. And Lila says, or she thinks, Beth.
Lila?
Oh my God. I'm so sorry. Lila is the Omegaverse that I'm also reading. I'm so sorry, Beth.
I mean, that sounds
but
rad.
Shout out. The Omegaverse is pretty good so far. But anyway, Beth thinks to herself, only if it were rain. Oh no. Butch didn't say this. Her creepy fucking lech of a freaking boss says this. Would you like me to give you a ride home? And she thinks, only if it were raining thumbtacks and hairpins. And I was like,
it.
I love that. I'm adopting that. That's mine. I'm going to forget all about it because I had forgotten all about it until reading it in my highlights right now. But one day it's going to come out of my mouth at some random point, probably where it doesn't actually make sense, but I will be pleased.
Yeah, absolutely.
So she says, fuck that.
I do have another passage to read. I'm so sorry. On her way out of the newsroom, which was an open space cut up into cubicles by flimsy gray partitions, she hit her buddy Tony's stash of Twinkies. Tony ate all the time. For him, there was no breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Consumption was a binary proposition. If he was awake, something was going into his mouth. And to keep himself supplied, his desk was a treasure trove of caloric depravity. She peeled off the cellophane and couldn't believe she was biting into the artificial swill as she hit the lights and walked down the stairwell to Trade Street. Have we told you that Beth is like capital H hot? I don't know if we've told you that, but like listener, I'm pretty sure that passage should have told you that like she's super hot because a Twinkie nary ever hits her gullet.
This is so interesting because I highlighted this and I took, so like there is definitely fatphobia in this book. I did not take that quote that you, because I have it highlighted too, and I did not take it that way. My biggest
the caloric
takeaway,
depravity didn't do it for you.
I mean, I indulge in caloric depravity and will happily call it that on the daily. Like,
fair enough.
I just didn't take that. But what I did take out of this was, I'm sorry, ma'am, did you just take food out of somebody's desk without asking? That's what I stole from that. Somebody. Because if I fucking walked into my office knowing I had a Twinkie in my desk and I was ready for that Twinkie and I fucking opened my drawer and there was no fucking Twinkie there, I would be like magnifying glass around like,
mad.
Who has the crumbs? Who ate my fucking Twinkie?
You'd be going through the footage of the camera that's obviously on your desk because this has happened before.
Don't even joke. The security in my office, like just for like actual security purposes, my desk is in view of that camera. And like, if I was angry enough, I would not put it past myself to be like, where the fuck is that security camera footage? Who ate my last fucking Andy's Mint? Okay.
So she's walking home and she gets mega assaulted by two youths.
Oh yeah.
Who, trigger warning, try to do a big ol' capital R sexual assault on her.
Yeah. And they get
it's
close.
It's not great. They get very close.
Billy Riddle, that little fuck.
Yep. And then she does kick him in the nards and get away, thankfully.
Kick, twist the
Whatever
shit out
does.
of. Same difference, yeah.
Yeah.
But regardless, so then she like runs home immediately and ignores her Chinese food that she had already ordered, which like valid. I would also leave the Chinese food and get the fuck home.
Absolutely.
And then she just goes to sleep. Although
she showers. She showers and then gets called down to the explosion that has murdered her father, but she doesn't know that. Dun dun dun.
But before she does that, there was a moment where it comments that the phone on her desk. And my first thought was, what kind of phone do we think she had in 2005? Ooh. A Razor? A BlackBerry? As a reporter lady?
It was definitely a BlackBerry if it was a mobile one.
Yeah.
But if it was a home phone, it was definitely one of those put them on the stand.
I think it was a cell phone because I think I remember her mentioning she set it down.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Though. But regardless,
for sure
I did have that thought. I was like, I wonder what kind of phone that this little reporter lady had. This hot little reporter lady has.
This sexy cub reporter.
Oh, yeah.
So he has to go home and feed Marissa his shellan. And every time he has to feed her, he does get sick to his stomach because he reviles her.
To clarify, listener, a shellin is essentially like a blood mate where you are not necessarily like, you're a mate, But to be a true mate, it means that you're together, and shellans feed each other, essentially, from what I understand. I didn't read the glossary.
But also, shellans are also mates forever. And this was what I was also confused
That's
about.
what I'm saying. Is she was not a mate. She was not a mate in truth. Like, she was promised to him, and he had to accept, I guess, because Lord knows Wrath is great at taking direction. But she was promised when they were like, we babies. I think isn't she the one who helped him through his transition?
Yeah, she's the one who fed him through his transition. And I guess they've been, quote unquote, bonded since then. And she sort of became his shellan by default. But they're not a pair in any other way, except that everybody thinks they're a pair in every other way.
Well, yeah.
Because, like, he doesn't want to embarrass her, because she's a member of the aristocracy.
Yeah, and vampire high society.
Yeah, and, like, apparently in vampire high society, the only worth a woman has is to be a fuck doll shellan for a high-powered vampire. Is that not right?
I mean,
because otherwise she would be
wrong,
completely disregarded by her peers.
Well, yeah, because later in the book, she calls it off and releases him from their covenant. And he's like,
which is okay.
I could never leave her because then she'd be fucked in high society or aristocracy.
And she'd be ruined.
Yeah.
Damaged goods.
Yeah.
So anyway, he feeds this bitch and then he's like, you need to get out. And then a doggen, who is a biological butler.
I love Fritz.
I love a Fritz. Yeah, he's the Alfred of this Wayne Manor. So he comes in and he's like, hey, boss, Darius, who actually owns this mansion, is very dead. He got obliterated by an explosion.
So here's a letter that he left.
Is that what happened?
Yeah. Fritz gives him the letter.
Okay. This makes so much more sense because Sabrina, remember when I texted you, wait, did Darius kill himself? ?
Yes.
And you said, no, he was exploded. Duh. And I was like, yeah, I mean, like, yes. I thought that What's-His-Nuts just pulled it out of his pocket.
It was a suicide letter?
Yeah. I thought what was happening for that split moment until I got into fucking Mr. X's point of view, Sabrina.
Ooh,
Mr. X.
Yeah.
I thought that he pulled it out of his pocket and Darius had been like, oh, I'm going to explode myself to really goose Wrath into some action and make him do what I want him to do in the end.
No,
and that was
Fritz rolls
weird.
up and he's like, hey, and basically the letter was Darius being like, if you're receiving this letter, Wrath, it's because I'm no longer here. So it was one of those kind of like just in case letters.
Okay, this makes a lot more sense. Thank you so much.
Yes.
And then he does a big Tamlin on the whole room because Darius is dead. And he's apparently
I don't
also...
know what noise just came out of my body.
I liked it. It was very dolphin-esque. No, but he does. He does a big, I'm going to do a telekinetic emotional...
He does that a couple of times. It's also never explained. Not once.
He can telekinesis. He can teleport. And... he can do one other. He can wipe the minds of humans. All vampires can do those 3 things, and yet the lessers are still a threat. How?
Yeah, there's just too many of them.
How are they not just fighting with like drone style?
Not all vampires. Like, I don't think that Marissa can do the telekinesis and shit. Like, she can teleport, yes, but
so it's just band of brother boys who can do,
I think. I mean,
this
I don't know.
Super special stuff.
Like I said, the first book of any big world building.
No, you're right.
There's gonna be so many fucking questions. Don't worry, because like I said earlier, off the record, I am fully going down this rabbit hole all over again, which means I'll get the answers and I'll tell them to you, and you can ask me all the questions you want, and you don't have to read any more off the chain.
Oh, I'm so excited. With the business of romance.
Business
being
vengeance
off the chain action boy vampirism.
Anyway, I would like to say before we cruise on, there is one line that like I really loved. Like so much. And it was, I don't even remember the context at this point, but it's some bridges you crossed on your own, no matter who drove you to the edge. And I was like, oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I do like that a lot. And then we move into meeting the rest of the big bad blood boys.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so there's Wrath and Phury and Tohrment
and Zsadist.
And Zsadist.
He's a fucked up human being. To be fair, he
was
essentially a blood slave. Not essentially.
Yeah,
he was a blood slave for 100
really
years.
Really tough
so
time.
like, to be clear, I'm not saying that I approve of Zadist's actions, but also like I will say that I do somewhat understand the mental break that would lead him to it. He's book 3 or 4.
3. Because Marissa's book 4.
Yeah, so he's 3, and I think Rhage is next. Rhage with his big
Hollywood
attacky.
Oh yeah, he's got a demon in him.
He does. Because that is one thing, listener. All of the brothers are cursed in some way, except for Wrath. I haven't figured. Wrath doesn't have a curse.
He's because the royal treatment, that pure blood king.
Well, yeah. So like, Rhage has his big ol' fucking monster inside of him. I don't remember what Tohrment has. Is it Phury that can't touch people? He has to wear gloves, or is that Tohrment?
No, that's Vicious.
That's Vicious. Yes.
He has one Michael Jackson glove.
Fuck.
I'm sorry, it's one leather Michael Jackson glove.
I fucking hate you. I'm only gonna be able to think about that as I'm reading now.
Only because it's fucking accurate.
Oh, jeez, sweet jeez. Okay. Anyway, and then is that everybody that we meet? There's 6 of them. Yeah. So Zsadist, Phury, Tohrment, Rhage,
Vicious, and Wrath.
And Wrath. Okay. Because there were 7 of them, but now, Darius is... Why does Darius have a normal name, by the way?
No, that's why he had to get killed. He had to go.
He didn't have enough
Only
H's.
Wrath can have a normal name.
Well, Wrath is also not a... Darius is legitimately just a guy that you meet on the street. Darius is your accountant, Melody. Like,
it's true.
I'm not going to lie. I don't know how much I would trust... I don't know how much I would trust a... Phury with a PH to handle my taxes, Melody.
Well, maybe that's prejudice.
Maybe that's small-minded of me, but I would have questions. Like, I'm not saying I would. To be fair, I don't trust anybody else to fuck up my taxes. That's my job.
Incredible.
So anyway, so we meet all these people, yada yada, and then there was a point though where Wrath, when he gets Fritz hands him the letter.
Oh, yeah?
And Wrath is mostly blind. He has always been, he always has had vision issues since 1742 or whatever when he was born. But then when he transitioned, is it?
Yeah.
Is that the word?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
When he vampired up, his vision did not get better. So that is one thing. When you turn into a vampire, usually everything gets better, but his got worse, and it's steadily been getting worse all the way up until now. So he has very limited vision.
Maybe that's his curse, but that's really ableist.
I was going to say, I have a big issue with the idea of his blindness being his curse.
Interesting.
Yeah. Interesting. Just whimsying away. just whimsying past this. But Fritz hands him the letter, and Wrath is like, I can't read this. And so he hands it back to Fritz, and he says, read this. And so Fritz takes it and just starts reading. And Wrath is like, aloud. And Fritz is like, oh, my apologies. And I was no. Every scene Fritz was in, I think those were the best scenes. Any scene with Fritz was a good scene.
I love a Fritz. Also, Phury is celibate. I think he's described as something like a celibate amputee. Didn't he shoot off his own leg for his brother at some point?
Yes, that was, he did shoot his brother.
But it grows
leg
back.
off for his brother, I guess, little chameleon boy.
Okay,
but,
fair enough.
Yeah, of course he's celibate. What's he gonna do? Touch somebody with his vision? No, Vicious has the poison hand. Phury has the Rhage hand. Monster.
Yeah.
Do you think that the monster is missing a leg? That is not covered in the scene.
No, Rhage has all his legs. I think Phury does too,
God.
but it does.
I'm getting all these people fucking mixed up in my head.
No, Phury. It just talks about him shooting his leg off for his brother at some point.
Yeah.
But I think it does grow back because I don't remember them talking about him having a prosthetic.
Well, one of them has a prosthetic.
Well, that must be Phury then.
Yeah, it's got to be Phury.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anyway,
okay.
boop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop.
Beep, doop, dop.
So,
okay, so now we meet Butch at the site of the explosion.
Oh boy. Butch is...
And Butch is... wow, he is a... he's a fictional character that I've hated the most in Everdom.
Yeah.
In this scene, he sees that she has a split lip. And so his idea of like a great tactic is to pin her against the wall, trapping her with both of his arms around her and demanding her to tell him who did that to her.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Hi, I've got some real short-term PTSD right now, and you need to back the fuck up."
Yeah.
It's fine. He also just like loves to talk about horrors.
And get blowjobs underneath the bridge, which is ultimately in and of itself not a problem.
Which is fine. But the way that he does think about that bartender is not ideal.
No,
I would
her
say.
and her dead eyes.
Yeah. Oh, Rhage. I'm so sorry. I just found the description. He's Hollywood beautiful with a drive to rival a barn full of stallions. Is Rhage, and I would read that book. Tell you that much. All right.
Book 2. I don't think you want to read it.
I don't. Well, you're right. So I can't. I'm like waiting with breath abated to have you describe it to me, though. Okay. So then he's like, "Oh, I'm going to take her home and I'm going to get this description out of her." He does. And then he's like, "Oh, that's the kid who was just taken to the hospital with his nards kicked off. And so I'm going to go over there and I'm going to do a big police brutality on him because he touched a woman that I respect." And so he does go and do that.
To be clear, respect is a slight.
He wants to fuck her.
He wants to stick it in.
He's very
He wants to stick it in her.
To this hot cub reporter. And he is just mystified. Later on, he's like, so about men. Like, are you
even like men?
I mean like us. Because like I am, in case you didn't notice.
I'm a manly man.
My voice is like gravel. In a good way, she says later on. His voice is like gravel in a good way. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
He's always like, anybody who would hold me accountable for my police brutality is actually the corrupt one. To be fair, the only time he is held accountable for it is when he does it to a senator's white son.
Yeah.
So that tracks at the very least.
Yeah, that does track.
Good job, J.R. Ward.
But you want to know what else tracks in that?
Yeah.
His police buddy boys were like, "It's okay, man. We believe you. We understand. Any person you've ever beat up it was right for you. Like, we trust that it was a good thing you beat them up." And like, boy howdy, let's boys club.
Yikes.
Yeah.
So now Wrath starts stalking Beth. Pretty seriously.
Shows up at her back door.
Yeah.
And then she has already locked the door. And by the way, her cat the entire time has been like noodling itself against the glass door and purring and meowing. Like, that cat is obsessed with vampires. And so Wrath comes rolling up to the door, and she's already, obviously Beth is freaked out. She was just molested in an alley. And he shows up 2 barn doors wide and 6'6" with a fucking widow's peak and sunglasses at night. And she has no idea what to fucking make of it. And then she's like, "I know I locked that door." And guess what? Wrath does his little mind wiggles, and all of a sudden he's inside, and she screams for good reason, takes off, bumps into the table, knocks a vase off, and is sobbing on the floor. And then Wrath does his fancy little mind wipe thing and walks away and is like, "I could have handled that a little bit better." And it's like, no fucking shit, Wrath.
That didn't go well.
Fucking
and he
shit.
thinks to himself, "Man, all I wanted to do was introduce myself." Really, Wrath? Wow.
There are better ways to introduce yourself, my friend. You've been around for 300 fucking years.
Right?
I need you to be a little bit smoother than broken glass, bud.
He can't. And also, she smells amazing.
Oh, yeah. She smells so fucking good. Oh,
smells like everything he's ever wanted to be inside.
Beth is a black-haired, smelly good hottie.
Siren.
Oh, boy howdy. So then we have some more side. I'll be frank. I just would rather skip 95% of the stuff about the lesser's side of the book. Because, like,
it's boring as fuck is what it is. It's like 1950s Milkman, except mildly evil. Yeah.
And would be a serial rapist if he was not impotent.
Well, yeah, killer, certainly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he is a killer.
No, but I mean humankind. Just a regular run-of-the-mill.
Yeah. Well, and so I will give you the quickest rundown of quickest. So Mr. X got promoted to the what is called a four lesser, which is the leaders of the lessers, because he told the Omega, which all I'm going to say is I read a lot of Omegaverse, and the Omega is not a term that I was expecting. Different Omega.
Different here.
Different Omega. There is no slick. There is no heat here. There's the opposite of those things.
There's no nodding.
No, God, no. Although I can't wait for that scene in this book.
Zero Mpreg.
Oh boy, yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think that would go well in this series.
No, she
I
can't
think somebody. I was thinking Mpreg, and I was like, I don't think any of these men are touching themselves with how many "I'm not gay" jokes there are in this fucking book.
Absolutely not.
But anyway, so the four lesser, he gets this promotion, and so in the background, he has this whole thing where he's going to be trying to kill vampires and get a hold of the Brotherhood, because the Brotherhood was keeping them from being able to just slaughter all of the vampires. And so he has all of this stuff that he's doing in the background, trying to catch them and blah, 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 blah. And so he's murdering sex workers, but that is not what they're called in this book.
Super not.
Yeah, so he's murdering sex workers using heroin and using that to lure out civilian vampires, and then taking the civilian vampires and trying to torture them and kill them and figure some shit out. It's a whole thing. So that's all happening in the background. We're going to go back to smut times now.
But also, Billy Riddle is one of his students because he runs a dojo. And that's where he recruits young men.
I will say, I have a problem with...
Dude, what?
Yeah.
What?
Mm-hmm.
No, tell me everything.
Yeah. Do have a problem with all of these very clearly milkman, pasty white people, even when they're not at the martial arts places, calling each other sensei. I got a problem with that.
Yeah, it's fine.
So anyway, so that's all happening in the back. And so Billy Riddle does, in the end, end up getting recruited. He gets turned into a lesser. He's real pissed off about it because, as stated, we did have a bit of
kid loves to do capital R sexual assaults.
Yeah,
he loves
that's his favorite hobby.
It's his whole thing.
Rough. And now, guess what? He's impotent. So time to kill.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll come back to them way at the very, very end when we spend 3 seconds discussing the very end of this book, because boy howdy, the last 15% is a lot.
Rapid fire.
Yeah, real quick. We're going to hit that real fast.
Yeah. Do you know the genesis of this ritual in which he does kneel on pebble-sized diamonds for a whole day in order to
mourn the loss of his
does that
brother?
Have any... Does that have
I don't remember if it comes up later, but that's definitely a thing in a lot of cultures where essentially you take a day period of...
Yeah.
Essentially...
Or a period of time,
yeah.
To sit and meditate and mourn or whatever. Yeah, I'm just wondering if the diamonds have anything to do with anything, or if that's just I don't
know specific. I think it's just a pain thing, because if you remember in the wedding, they literally fucking carve her name into his back.
Yeah.
And then cover it in salt sludge. So and Beth is like, my God, why couldn't my name have been Sue? He had to get Elizabeth fucking scratched into him
Or why could everybody calls her Beth? You guys stop being at 11 the time.
That's 11. That is a wildly low level that you just gave them.
That's fair. So then he has to feed from Marissa after this, and he gets real sick to his tummy about it. And then he's getting dressed. And I have a question for you, Sabrina. What the fuck are BVDs? Are those a thing that I don't know about?
I had a
question. What is a
too.
BVD?
I don't know what a BVD is, and I meant to Google it, and I forgot.
I asked Michael because it seemed like a men underwear kind of situation, but he didn't know what it was talking about either. I think only real men wear boxers because he won't wear a BVD.
BVD, men's briefs.
Okay, so he doesn't like boxer briefs.
Shut up. They're tidy whities.
Okay. So real men can't wear tidy whities. Those are for lessers or somebody.
No, BVDs are tidy whities.
And he refuses to wear them. He says, I would rather go commando in a fight. I would rather be swinging around.
Oh, hang on. Okay, BVDs isn't just commando. Isn't just a tidy whitey. It's an underwear brand. It's just an underwear brand.
Okay, but they don't do boxers.
The first thing that came up when I Googled BVD men's briefs was just a wall of tidy whities. And I was like, shut the fuck up.
All right.
I like a tidy whitey. But
anyway,
no, they do boxers. Anyway, I had the same question. I just assumed it was exactly what you assumed it was.
Then my next question for you is a cigarillo like a black and mild?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why does she get high from it?
I don't think that it's a normal cigarillo.
Why is it a relaxant?
Well, okay, so like sometimes people will like mix their cigarillos with like other stuff, but like I think that it's not actually just like a plain tobacco cigarillo. It's probably like some sort of hand rolled fancy
it a
something.
Marijuana cigarillo?
I mean, maybe.
Is Fritz like that? Does Fritz get down like that?
I don't know.
Sabrina?
I could totally see Fritz just like when there's nobody at the
hand
house,
rolling
just big
some shit
hand rolling himself a blunt and just like smoking up.
I mean, I dig it. Okay, I'm sorry, everyone. The only reason I asked that is because he has to get dressed and he refuses to wear BVDs. He asks Fritz to get him real men boxers. And he also asks him for cigarillos. And then he goes to see her again. He is smoking. And
this time
he brings his smoke into her house without her permission. Not only does he enter the premises again without permission, he fucking brings a lit cigarillo that may or may not be a controlled substance. What is that in 2004 and 5? Anyway,
horny,
she gets high and she's like,
because they're fucking hot as shit for each other.
She's like, I need you inside me immediately. And he's like, I've never wanted to be inside someone as much as you.
Mm-hmm.
And like, don't worry, everyone. He is considerate enough to balance his cigarillo
on her nightstand. And then he goes over and he's like, she's like, oh my God, I want you so bad. And he's like, by the way, to be clear, listener, the sex in this book is pretty good. It's pretty good sex. No complaints there. And so he does roll over and he's like, oh, I can't do the thing, but he does immediately do the thing because he was like, I can't stick it in. And then he goes down on her for a little while and then he does in fact stick it in because she's begging for it and he wants it. And then they fall asleep and she wakes up to him like eyes closed and he's like petting her face. By the way, she does not realize he can't see yet. Yeah,
not until like 2/3 of the way into the book, I swear.
When they're having dinner and oh God. And ma'am, you're a newspaper reporter. I need you to be a little bit more aware of your fucking surroundings. Like no wonder you're like, I'm not saying that there isn't some sexism going on in that newspaper office, but I'm also going to sit here and say, this might not be the field for you if you don't pick up on clues like that. Just saying. But anyway, so...
Oh, well, sorry to go back to the sex. He does bite the front clasp of her bra off. So, like, there is that. He bites it off.
Hey, he's got enough money. I ain't mad about it.
I'm not mad.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm good with it. I was fine with it.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying, you said the sex was hot, and I was like, yeah, one of the components was him biting her bra all the way off.
I didn't mean to get defensive of this potentially
no, you're
not potentially very problematic book, but I did immediately assume that you were coming in hot again.
You know what? I forgive you for that, Sabrina, because it is understandable.
I don't need forgiveness, I'll be honest. So anyway, by the way, don't worry, listener. This was also her first orgasm ever. This woman is 25 years old. And apparently, because Wrath had also never had an orgasm, despite his best attempt until after he turned into a vampire.
Yeah.
Or like right around that time. Apparently, until you go from non-vampire to vampire, you can't come. Which, like, that sucks. And
that's rude.
Like,
do you get boners, do you think? Because like she acts as though she doesn't even understand attraction at the beginning of the book.
Well, I don't think that she has ever been attracted to anybody before this.
Right.
I think this is her first like experience with attraction. But to go back to your boner question, are you asking if this is like a warlord situation?
Which warlord? Wait, what? What's a warlord situation?
Warlord wants forever?
Wants forever?
when he
Have
has a boner for 5 years.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
How did you wipe that from your memory?
I don't know. It's one of the best details I've ever read in a book.
That lives rent free in my head. I do legitimately, I randomly think about that. Anytime,
Same.
like,
No, probably because this feels like the opposite of that. And so I was like,
It
in
does.
what way would not getting a boner be like a warlord wants forever? But yeah. Weird boner times for vampires.
I feel like they just don't really have sexual attraction until they're basically going through vampire puberty.
Mhm.
So like right around puberty and all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, I got tingles in my nethers. And you're like, I'm going to do something about that. And she just happened to have Wrath there to do something about it for her.
Yeah.
So anyway.
She's laying there looking at him and she thinks to herself, his abdomen was ribbed as if he were smuggling paint rollers under his skin.
I had a lot of questions about that sentence.
I mean, it's demonstrative.
It's descriptive. Yeah.
Yeah.
I immediately could
demonstrative's
picture
not
it.
the word.
But also, like, aren't for a stereotypically perfect set of abdominals,
Sure.
isn't there supposed to be a line down the middle?
Yeah, they're supposed to.
When I think of a paint, we're just doing like they have it like Bed Bath and Beyond, where it's just like towel, 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 and there's no line down it. Like, I'm just gonna say, I got that roller shit going on. There's just no line down the center because they're rolls.
It's true.
Beautiful.
My rolls are just as great.
I got paint rollers here too, baby.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You think Wrath's the only one? Fuck that.
Ain't no fatphobia here. Unlike when the statement of if sex were food, Rhage would have been morbidly obese. That was a line. or just to give you more fodder for your hatred, Mal, because I did highlight this, but like I said, I just kind of whimsied past it.
Yeah.
Was when she was saying that maybe if she were 20 pounds heavier, she wouldn't have been attacked in the alley.
No.
And I was like, oh, cool. Cool.
Come on.
Anyway, whimsy.
I'm really glad that I hadn't noticed that, probably because audiobook, and now I'm sad.
Sorry to bring it to your...
No worries. Please keep it coming. So she thinks that Butch sent him to be like a bodyguard. That's what she's thinking.
Oh my God. These men need to fucking tone it down on this fucking testosterone macho bullshit, because she tells Butch, she's like, by the way, thanks for sending your friend over. Because in her head, she's like, oh, obviously he's like Vice or something. And because I've never seen him before, because she's buddy with all the cops.
And also he's fucking scary looking. Everything about him looks scary. He looks like he's undercover constantly.
Yeah. I mean, he does want to be undercover constantly.
He does. Only for Beth, though, which we love.
Only for Beth, man. That is one question I had that maybe you caught. Like, obviously he's had sex before.
Has he? Because
it's never.
I don't know.
I feel like it would have been very, very. It would have been a thing if he was a virgin.
He definitely hasn't had sex with Marissa because he doesn't want to give her like the wrong impression. But I'm pretty sure he has, right?
It's just never mentioned.
Especially since he's so he's so pointedly talks about those being her first orgasms later on. He had to. I don't know. He had to. Something must have happened. Anyway,
17th century. He's been around a long time. I just like thinking about the
You wouldn't tell it from the next passage. Do you want to hear this? Okay. So he goes.
Yes, tell me.
He goes back to the Band of Brotherhood's Wayne Manor. And he is talking to, like, a bunch of his boys are getting together. And I just want to set the scene. These are men who are all between 6 and 7 feet minimum. They are all 300 years old minimum. And they are very serious warriors who have to protect the race.
Whimsy.
And the following happens. Rhage says, "You got some grind tonight, didn't you?" And then after being threatened with a dagger to the head, Tohrment, who I'm meant to believe is like the most level-headed and reasonable of them all, comes in and says, "Whoa, Rhage, you been popping shit again?" And like, are you 300-year-old fighters from an elite warrior class whose like fate of the race rests on your shoulders, or Are you like feeling Eminem wannabes in upstate New York who see Blade as a fashion Bible and pump iron in your Escalade, then like feel each other but no homo?
Yeah. Every time you start talking about you start doing the thing where it's like fit. All I can think this is how my friend Kristen, Kristen, talks about like she's like, these are my grungy frat vampire books. That's
Great.
exactly what they are.
But how? Can I at least get a narrative of how this happened? Like
you'll have to talk to Kristen about that.
Because they feel like two mutually exclusive things, and maybe that's a failure of my imagination. You're willing
just too small-minded, Melody,
to believe that.
To embrace the beauty of a 300-year-old frat boy.
And like they're always talking about the old language, and like they're always talking in the old language, but like, is that vampire? Or is it like Estonian? I
couldn't make heads or tails of what that is. Maybe it gets just explained later. So I would like to be clear. I have read through like at least book 9.
Yeah.
I have no memory of like any of them. I do remember that Zsadist is my baby and I would murder for Zsadist, but
I have heard many things about that. Yeah. Apparently his book is like Chef's Kiss.
Oh, boy. I don't even remember if it's Chef's Kiss. I just remember that like I'll fuck you up. Not you specifically, but like I'll fuck somebody up over Zsadist.
Come at me, bro.
I feel like I am coming at you, and like I'm like, ma'am, no, stop it.
I'm into it. No, and again, listener, she's
squirt bottling you.
No, okay. Listen, I want to just make this clear one more time. I am not trying to yuck anyone's yum. I'm so completely supportive of anyone and everyone loving these books. I just refuse to have my yuck yummed in return.
Well, unfortunately for you, I am yumming your yuck, but luckily for listener, while you're sitting here not trying to yuck their yum, I am fully yumming their yum with them. That is the most convoluted thing I could have said. And like, it's okay. We are yumming something problematic, but I have grown as a person with the fact that I register that any of this is problematic, because I sure as fuck didn't think so when I was reading it in high school.
Absolutely.
I was like,
no, absolutely.
Yeah. And now I'm like, ooh, whoo. Like, I feel like every like 3 pages, I was like, damn. And I would have DNF'd this book if the first time I read it was in 2023. This is I've DNF'd similar books.
Yeah.
To be frank.
Well, and I think that's one of the beauties of romance, right? Is that it does so clearly reflect the cultural moment that it's in.
There were so many references in this book that I was like, ooh, that aged. There are people who are going to read this book and have no idea what any of this means.
I mean, some of this book seemed like almost like a product placement TV show. Like she literally drops Fancy Feast. She literally drops Pepperidge Farm Goldfish. Like there are so many brand names in this. She talks about how they listen to Jay-Z's The Black Album. And like there is so much of this that like situates it in such a specific time. I feel like this should be one of the books that we sort of point to when we talk about the choice of whether or not to
be broad so that it can be read wherever. Yeah. Well, because like literally there is not a single thing about this book that does not scream mid 2000s to me. Like start to finish. To finish. Everything about this book is mid 2000s to me. Yeah. But like I had not noticed the specific product placement. I definitely noticed like Notorious B.I.G. being name dropped, Jay-Z being name dropped, Britney Spears being name dropped. Which all of these made me laugh, though, because I was like, man, the Britney Spears of this book is very different from the Britney Spears of today.
That's fair. Yeah. Well, and like, I think it's Rhage who has a craving for Grey Goose all the time.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Like, they exclusively drive in Escalades. And like, the one thing I really loved about this book is that the bad guy drives a Hummer. And I'm like, yes.
I saw a Hummer in the real world the other day. I was like, I did. What? Oh, that's a relic of a bygone era at this point. Do people still drive Hummers? Apparently. I thought that they didn't. How do you pay for that?
Yeah, I don't know. You may as well light money on fire. And also light the ozone on fire. Yeah. So anyway.
Going back.
Yeah.
Where were we? So she has gone to Butch and she's like, hey, you sent your friend. And Butch is like, what do you mean, my friend? I did not send no friend to you, ma'am. And she's like,
I would never do that your because nobody's manly enough. It's gotta be me.
And like, why the fuck? Butch wants to stick it in your downstairs, ma'am. Why the fuck would he send somebody at night to come smoke in your house and fuck you real good?
I mean, like, my note is he tells her he didn't send a gigolo to her house, even though he has no idea that went down, but it's hilarious to me.
Lord.
Yeah, and she's like, never mind. I never said that out loud. Goodbye. And she fucks off.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go on a pages-long double date with Mr. X, Billy Riddle, and a student that is only referred to as the loser.
Loser?
And he is the loser because, like, he won't just punch random people in the face for no reason. Why did we have to do laser tag?
Because he wanted to see that.
Why was there laser tag in this book?
Because it's 2005, Melody. What do you think people did on a Saturday night? They went to laser tag at the mall.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess for me it was paintball.
Oh, I never did paintball, but like laser tag, boy, fucking howdy. If we had a couple extra dollars to rub together, we did a heck of a lot of laser tag growing up.
I dig it. All right. So now he thinks maybe that she's his pyrocant.
Yes.
Which is a thing that Sabrina can explain to you.
Did you not go look at the glossary? It's in the glossary.
I did. It's his critical weakness.
Critical weakness. Could be a thing. Could be a person.
But like, does that ever come back? It doesn't come back here. Does it come back in the book?
Not specifically pyrocant, but it's pretty clear that she's his weakness.
Okay.
Is it not clear to you that she's his weakness?
No, I think his hubris and his toxically masculine need to be the hero by himself is his weakness.
Obviously.
That's his pyrocancy. It's not got nothing to do with her.
As far as he's concerned, that she's a... I like it.
That's how you...
We're doing it.
If that's how
Nope, it's canon. It's canon.
Okay.
So, anyway, look at you coming up with canon for a universe that you couldn't stand.
Look at me. Good job, Melody.
But anyway, so like, I mean, to an extent though, like I get it because he's distracted around her. Like he's like but like ultimately he's just becoming what he thinks is weakness is actually him becoming a better man.
He's just falling in love, you dickhole.
Yeah.
Okay, so now Beth and Butch go on a date that Beth doesn't want to go on and doesn't know they're on. And they have dinner or something. And then when he drops her off, he thinks to himself...
He kisses her?
Well, he thinks to himself, he wanted to give her some space because, you know, he didn't want to, like, make any moves she wasn't comfortable with. But then the moment she reaches for the fucking door, he just launches himself across the car and kisses her right on the mouth.
He does. Because he specifically does it before he can give it any thought and before she can think about it. And so, like, all of a sudden, they're smooching. Hello? Kissy kissy.
Meanwhile, Wrath is actively stalking her, so he's watching this whole thing, trying not to do a murder.
And then she pulls away. He walks away. He does not go fuss with it. But then he's going up to the back door, and Butch sees him in the shadows, and so he's like, "Oh my god, there's that fucker!" And so Wrath gets like pushed up against the wall in the backyard, and Beth is there. Both of the macho bullheads are like, "Oh my god, get in the house, Beth, get in the house," while they're like battling each other. And like Wrath is like, I'm just letting you put me up against the wall. And like fucking Butch starts pulling out weapons and like drops a whole ass wad of cash, and he's like, oh my god, he's a drug dealer.
And these are throwing stars. Who walks around with throwing stars on them?
And then Butch, because that's Wrath's weapon of choice.
No, that's not a question I'm asking. That's a question Butch is asking.
Oh. Well, also, they've been finding throwing stars at all of these murders, too.
Yeah, with the sex worker murders.
And so what ends, like super long story short, because we're going to just roll on right through this, is Butch takes him in. Butch thinks he's fucking God's gift to the world. And so he's like, I'm not going to tell anybody. All he does is call in and, like, clearly Wrath is capable of fucking somebody up, Butch. Come on now. And so he calls in and says, there's a weapons pickup at Beth's house. And so like he sends him up, but then he takes him in alone, gets out of the car, and instead of telling any of his cop buddies like, hey, meet me out front, I'm coming in hot, coming in with an off-the-chain buddy, an off-the-chain dude. He gets out of the car alone, and Wrath is like, they can't take me in there because there are steel bars, and I need to be able to materialize away when the sun comes up, because otherwise I'm dead. And so he ends up beating up Butch in the alley, like yanks him into the alley. He does a big
strangle on him.
Well, and all I can think is, Wrath, why didn't you just wipe that fucking memory and materialize the fuck out of the way? There are so many times in this book where I'm like, why didn't you just materialize? What? You can apparate, my friend. Like, yeah, teleport your ass. And then, of course, I don't know. There is no way Beth got a taxi that fast and got to that fucking police station that fast. But somehow she's magically at the police station running down the alley, and Butch is like, no, get away. And then like Wrath like does a big badonk on his head, basically knocks him out.
I can't do a murder in front of Beth. I mean, to give Wrath some credit, while he's allowing himself to be manhandled by Butch, he thinks to himself, the thing I hate the most is the way that Butch is being like, shut your lady mouth. Don't talk to her like that. Wrath thinks to himself.
Well, and then Wrath is such a fucking dickhead to her himself, though. Like, how many fucking, I can't tell you how many times, and look, good for Beth, because Beth stands up. She's not taking none of Wrath's shit.
No, she's
like, get fucked, dude.
Yeah, I love her.
Fucked.
Because everybody else is like, my lord this, my lord that. And she's like, I don't see your hierarchy. Pfft, go fuck yourself. It's great. I love it.
And so she comes running down the alley, and Wrath is like, running away, and he's like, I gotta go. It's like that Cinderella. I'm like, I must leave the ball before midnight. And Beth is like, no, you can't. And he's like, they can't lock me up. They can't lock me up. And she's like, but where are you going? And he's like, I have to leave.
He's like, come with me.
And she's like, but, and she looks back at Butch, and she's like, but I can't. And Wrath is like, please. Come with me.
I knew your father.
Explain. I knew your father. I know that I gave you your very first orgasms last night. I know that the sun has been hurting your eyeballs. I know that your skin feels too tight for your body. We must leave. And then she does go with him. And Butch is like, no. Like slow-mo trying to get up and keeps falling over.
Okay, Sabrina, here's my new strategy. / maybe challenge to both of us, okay?
Okay.
When we want to get somebody to do something, we should just start saying random shit at them. Your elbows are ashy. You are contemplating getting a snake.
Your hips are hurting. You can feel the weather's coming because of your nipples, a la Mean Girls. Was that Mean Girls?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
You drove by a Dollar General yesterday. You got stopped at a red light.
When you saw that beach bum tanning place, you said to yourself, those still exist?
You were sad that you dropped that donut. Oh, no. You didn't drink enough water yesterday.
You have emotional reactions to Tic Tacs.
You don't want to get in the shower, but once you're finally in the shower, you don't want to get out.
The hardest part of working out is starting for you.
Oh my God, you just start screaming like motivational poster quotes at them. The hardest mountain to climb is the first. Like, you can only reach as high as you try.
You're a kitten and I'm saying hang in there.
That just makes me think of those like stupid fucking demotivational posters that were super popular in the early like 2010s.
God.
Like,
yeah,
they're so stupid. And like my favorite was like teachers who were trying to be cool. So they'd put up like demotivational posters and they'd be like, yeah, I'm off the chain.
That's right. I'm cool to the youths.
I'm hip. I'm groovy. So anyway,
she goes back to the mansion with him because her elbows are ashy.
Yes.
Like, that's a fact of the world, okay? And so then she sees, like, Rhage stitching himself up. And then she goes through a painting into Wrath's room. And I'm wondering if this is, like, a Through the Looking Glass homage. No? All right. We can move on.
Maybe.
So then he tells her she's a vampire and she runs like hell. And then he like catches her and she goes to sleep ? And then like the next conversation they have, she seems to be totally fine with it. No need to process anymore about vampire times. And then they start talking about sex. And she says, "You really didn't mean to sleep with me last night, did you?" Beth asks. "No,
He's like, no.
I didn't." "So why did you?" "Because I had to." "Why? Tell me why." "You made me realize how cold I am. I liked warming you." And it made me
Your little
legitimately
wiggle.
happy.
Yeah.
Legitimately happy. I really just loved that scene.
I was like, oh yeah, dick it down, dick it down, dick
Oh,
it down,
yeah,
dick
it's
it
gonna
down.
happen, it's gonna happen.
It's coming.
And then they proceed to have a very good sex scene until
Yeah.
his cum lust turns into bloodlust or war horniness.
And then he's like, I'ma eat this bitch. And he almost does it. Like he's like at her neck. And then he's like, oh no. He like pulls
And he
himself away and he's like,
He
how
does
can
an
I-"
Edward.
He like flips
He
himself.
does an Edward Cullen. Back away.
Melody,
Teleport
you and I
away.
gotta stop. I don't know I don't think you and I have gone a single episode without a Twilight reference.
I'm telling you,
this
we
a
have to do
thing?
that bonus episode with Meredith. I
We
keep forgetting to schedule
we
it, but
do.
we have to do it.
We do.
Maybe that'll get it out of my system. I don't know.
I don't think so. It's so easy. It's so easy to make a Twilight reference.
It is. It's in my bones. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
So he launches himself away and he's like, "You have to leave because you're a bitch I don't want to kill." She does leave. And then he says, "Who's a bitch I won't mind killing? Get Marissa down here."
Marissa.
Justice for Marissa.
I'm so sorry, Mel. Like, I do remember, despite Butch being a nightmare train wreck, police brutality
He's the
poster
worst.
child, I do remember liking their book.
Do you? Good. Because
Well,
from
he
the
sounds
description I read, it was a metric fuck ton of queer baiting that then didn't ever.
I think it's just maybe I don't know. I'll have to let you know when I read it, but I could just be again rose-colored glasses. But it could just be that I really love Marissa because I
Listen,
love
I
that
did
naive little. It's
Oh,
she
man.
is too naive though. Like the scenes with Butch where she's like she puts her finger in his mouth. I was like, ma'am, you are over 300 years old. What do you mean you don't know that you got a tingle in your down there parts?
Okay. So as I was texting a bunch of people today, I did end up getting sent one of the best things I've ever read in my entire life.
Okay.
That is an article on Smart Bitches Trashy Books in which Sarah Wendell reviews Lover Revealed, which is Marissa and Butch's book.
Okay.
And the majority of this thing is this hilarious satire where she imagines a conversation between the actors playing Marissa and Butch and a bunch of like the side characters who are like filming the television show of this book. And it is fucking hilarious. I will put it in the show notes. It crystallizes so much of the bullshit that I'm going to like trip over saying out loud. It is so good.
I'm excited
And I
to
just
read
want
it. You know what else I'm excited
to read
for?
it.
I'm excited
Reading
to
the
read that
book.
article. I'm also excited to
Yes.
relive my youth.
As you should be. And I love,
I just-
yes, I am legitimately excited for you to be able to go on that journey.
And guess what? I'm
Go.
doing it, which means you don't have to. Which means
I mean,
I can
this is
just
amazing.
tell you all about it.
I'm super stoked about it. Yeah. So, I
It
mean,
might
I'm really,
take me
I'm
3 years.
also very excited about that. Yeah. Maybe
So,
they should all
anyway,
be Patreon
I do
bonus
want to read that
episodes. I don't
article.
know.
So before it ends up in show notes, I request that you send that to me.
No worries. So then he feeds on Marissa
Mhm.
and she's like, "Oh my God, he has a boner and it's
Well,
in
'cause
my
he's horny
general
town, so
vicinity."
he bites her on the neck for the first time. He's like
Yeah.
grinding down on her and like humping her and biting her
And
and,
this is
stuff.
all
And
she's
she's
been
like-
dreaming of for 300 years.
And then so she taps into his brain bits, and guess what? He's thinking about Beth. And Marissa, I want to call her Melissa so bad. But Marissa is heartbroken. And so she like pushes him away inside. And leaves. And she's like, I am out. I'm outie. Like, she hasn't broken the covenant yet, but like, she
does. She does in the scene.
This moment?
He just remembers it later. Yeah, we don't see it right now, but he like remembers it happening. But yeah, she pushes away and she's like, well, no, I'm sorry. She doesn't even push away. He realizes, like, he finally stops eating and realizes that she's nearly dead. Like, he has actually nearly killed this hundreds of years old, super strong, apparently vampire. And super strong and yet not at all. Listen, I don't understand any of it, but it's fine. And
because she's like, Butcher around like a rag doll.
And so she's like, I release you from the covenant. You don't need to do this anymore. And he's like, I'm so sorry or whatever. He like tries to say he's sorry or maybe. And then she's like, no, you're getting everything that you've wanted for your whole life. Like, you've always thought I was disgusting. And no, that happens later. I'm sorry. That doesn't happen yet. But later on, she finally like gets some gumption and confronts him. And she's like, you've always thought I was like gross and disgusting. And I have never been able to figure out why I'm not good enough and what I need to do to be good enough. And I've been twisting myself inside out for 300 years trying to figure it out. And he's like, it has nothing to do with you, Marissa. It's not you. It's me. You're lovely. Just go fuck yourself, Wrath. Anyway, so... And like, literally, I'm so sorry, everyone. Literally, when she reads his mind, she sees a dark-haired beauty and her pink nipples. Oh, this poor woman. She just dies inside.
You're killing me, Melody.
Oh, justice for Marissa. You're never going to get it. So then Wrath decides that Tohrment is the best person to send and like keep an eye and protect.
Well, yeah, because Tohrment's the only one who has a lady. So like he's not gonna be dicking her down behind Wrath's back. Duh.
So he goes through a list of the reasons each brother shouldn't go and see her. And one thing that he does say to himself is he says, Vicious didn't have Rhage's good looks, but he had plenty of pimp juice. Does anyone want to?
Yes.
That's fine. We can just move on. And then when he's talking to her, telling her about his shellan and like explaining what a shellan is, she's like, does Wrath have a shellan? And he's like, maybe you should chat with him about that.
Well, because nobody knows that Marissa is no longer his shellan at this point.
Well, but also nobody apparently knows that she's not also his true shellan. Like, I don't... Like, how do they not?
It's fucky.
No.
Well, because Wrath doesn't live at that house. I don't think that, like, up until this book, he does not spend all this much, like, one-on-one time with all of these people.
Okay, nobody knows that Marissa lives with her brother all the time. Oh my God. Also, we've met her brother, who is a doctor, who...
He refuses to drink blood from another female because his wife died in childbirth.
Uh-huh.
And so he hasn't eaten... like actually eaten. So for clarification, vampires need to eat actual food. Like they don't just subsist on blood. There's just something in the blood, which I think that's a little weird. Cause like, so what? You just like spitballing back and forth? Like you just, I recycle, you recycle, I recycle, you recycle. That's real weird to me, but like, hey, whatever. Know. So anyway, he hasn't eaten, like he hasn't drank blood in 2 years, and somehow he's not dead?
Because he'll drink like human blood every once in a while. Apparently he's running like clinical trials on himself to see if he can make vampire blood shelf stable, ?
Yeah.
Like it's a whole thing, and like he's going a little bit
like gets close to it at some point. He gets close to it, and then he tests it on himself, and it doesn't work. And he's like,
and like he's going a little nuts from like malnutrition and sickness.
Yeah.
So anyway, Butch finds out that he is actually fired because he shouldn't have done that police brutality on a powerful white boy.
Yeah, don't worry, because Jose says, Jose, one of his fellow cops, Christ, Butch, I'm not your enemy. The boys and I are behind you. As far as we're concerned, you do what you need to do, and you've never been wrong. Anyone you've knocked around has deserved it, but maybe you've just been lucky, you know? And what if you'd hurt someone who wasn't? Cut the preacher routine. I'm not interested. Butch, buddy, this is what all of you should be fired.
Yeah.
Overhaul of this entire department, because all of you,
the police. I'm so sorry, everyone. Defund the fucking police. So anyway.
And at one point, Butch makes the comment too. He's like, "There was just no place for men like him in the world anymore." Yeah, Butch, you're
Capital
right.
M men. Yeah. No, the men's. Yeah, I don't have any place for you. I don't.
Yeah.
Nope.
I don't either.
You're correct. So then Fritz asks Marissa on a date for Wrath.
Yeah. And he takes her to buy a dress and like she's excited. She's like, ooh.
It's really cute. But then Wrath gets defensive about the fact that he likes a girl for the first time in his hundreds of years old life.
Oh, Wrath.
And Tor tries to be like, hey, bud, I think she has like the same feelings as you do. And he's like, I don't like girls. Shut up. They have cooties. And like, if you didn't like your girls so much, maybe Darius would still be alive. And Tor is like, that was unnecessary.
Get fucked.
And then he feels bad because he was doing a big lash out.
Yeah, you should go get fucked. And not in a fun way.
Yeah, I don't want to Google this in the ebook, but like, the word pussy whipped is used at least one time by Butch, and it's implied a metric fuck ton of other times.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Tor is, like all of these men, the minute that they do one nice thing or say one nice thing about their lady, all of a sudden they're pussy whipped.
It's amazing. So then they have a terrible dinner because he's a terrible host and a big meanie head, and he's not being nice. And so she's like, I guess I'll get my questions out of the way. And then we get a download on like vampirism and the Omega. And like, apparently this whole lesser situation started because the scribe virgin, who is the creator of the vampires, did snub the Omega one time. And so the Omega was like, I'm going to create a whole undead
to murder
situation,
your children, basically, because the vampires are seen as her children. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just petty bullshit, which is incredible and very deity-like, actually. And then I think they probably have sex, you know?
They do, because this is when we find out that she smells like peaches, and he loves peaches.
I mean, who doesn't? You know what I mean?
And yeah, so then they do that.
Oh, and Havers is Marissa's brother. He thinks she's been thrown over by Wrath, and he's big mad about it. The only reason that matters is because he ends up being the random catalyst for the final conflict because revenge. Because he is not off the chain when it comes to the business of vengeance.
Oh, there was one moment where I hadn't even registered this until I read this scene, but Beth has never seen her mother. Because her father was not in her life, and her mom died right after giving birth in the hospital. And so there was this scene where she goes into Darius's room and she finds a picture of her mother, and there are pictures of her everywhere. Yeah. And it actually really hit me really hard because she is looking around the room. There's still a glass with like an inch of water in it. There's mail on the desk. And she was like, oh, this is an abruptly interrupted life. And I just barely missed him. And I got a little teary about it. I was like, oh, my heart hurts.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah. It sucks. Yeah.
And then we move on, and Wrath realizes that he needs to apologize to Tohrment and blah. And then they
wait. Ooh, so sorry. She comes down in a bathrobe in order to see Wrath or something. And she meets all the boys. But when she walks into the room, she's hearing them talk to each other. And it says, I lit his cigarette with a sawed off. He didn't come down for breakfast. You feel me? And this apparently elicits a loud chorus of laughter. A couple of bangs, like heavy fists on the table, because it's hilarious to these boys.
Yeah.
He didn't come down for breakfast. You feel me? Yeah. You're such a badass.
I love you, Melody.
Where's that leather glove? Can you moonwalk at the same time is what I'm asking.
My cheeks hurt from smiling and laughing so much this episode. You're killing me.
All right, I have no notes anymore. I have no more notes.
No more notes?
No, I realized I was rage typing and I couldn't do it anymore.
So, how ironic that you quit rage typing, because this is when Rhage turns into his monster self.
Oh my God.
And fucks up some lessers, like, right outside. This is when I think they start to realize that dojo
is nefarious.
Uh-huh. And so, like, Rhage ends up turning into his monster, and Wrath is like, "Whoop, I've seen this. It's time to, I'm just backing up.
Gotta dial it back.
I'm not gonna fuck with that monster."
Hey, buddy.
Yeah, when it's all done. And so he goes and Rhage turns back into a human, or a vampire. Well, guess what? Rhage monster did, in fact, eat all of the people. So now Rhage vampire has a bellyache. He's got a distended belly. And he gets taken home, and Beth is like, "Oh my God, what happened to him?" And then, like, Rhage is just having a rough time.
Funny.
And this is so cute, too. So Rhage is miserable, and she's like, "Would an Alka-Seltzer help?" And he's like, "Yeah."
And she thinks to herself, I'm such an idiot. Why would I offer a vampire an Alka-Seltzer? And he's like, actually, that would be really nice.
Yeah, so she ends up feeding, like, helping him drink it. When she starts to get up, she knows Wrath's a possessive asshole. And when she starts to get up, Rhage puts his arms around her and, like, lays on her lap. And she just, like, pets him. And like hums to him, and she finally gets up, like he falls asleep, and so she gets up and she's like, "Oh, Wrath's gonna be so pissed." And then she turns around and Wrath is like, "Oh my heart."
He's just staring at her in adoration, and he's like, "Thank you."
Oh, because at this point he's taken off his
brother.
wraparound sunglasses. By the way, she can see she's allowed to see his eyes now.
Yeah.
To be clear, the first 2 times they have sex, he does wear the sunglasses, and he does finally take them off, and he has the prettiest, like, pale green eyes.
Yeah.
And, like, he's just looking at her like, "You take care of the Brotherhood and you're taking care of me." And, like, it was real touching, because, like,
it was a big romance.
All these boys just need somebody to love. Like, these boys need they just, because, like, Wrath is so much softer at the end of this book. And, like, that's really it. These boys get tamed. This is a taming. The taming of the Brotherhood. Like,
absolutely. And, like, I read an excerpt of Zsadist's book, because there was an article from, I'm going to try to find it. It was like The Wenches Who Love Romance or something like that. It was a really cute name. And they put a list of, like, all of the scenes that sort of blooded them for this series. And one of them was when Zsadist finds out that Bella's pregnant. And he thinks to himself, I'm not going to cry. And then he's like, fuck it. And he's like, are you sure you want my young? I think he says.
Oh, that's sweet. Like, if I don't read any other fucking books in this series, I will be reading at least 2 and 3, because Rhage is next, and then it's Zsadist. Yeah. And if I read nothing else, I will be rereading Zadist's book. Like,
yeah.
I love that sad scarred boy. I love it.
Yeah. I heard it's a bit of trauma porn, but
what about this fucking book? This entire series,
the whole thing is trauma
not trauma porn.
Yeah, the whole thing is trauma porn. Yeah.
Which, looking back, that may have been a big draw for me as a youth. To be clear,
indeed.
it's a big draw for me as a not youth, or as a less youthful youth. I do like a little. Yeah, I do like a little bit of trauma porn.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Not gonna lie, this Omegaverse, the Omegaverse I'm reading right now. You want to talk about some fucking trauma porn? I'm loving it. Nice. So anyway, going back. So this is also when, like, the brothers start finding out that she is Darius's daughter and things like that, because this is when she meets Zsadist for the first time. Oh, my baby. Yeah. And she's like, he scares the shit out of her, because, like, he rolls it. She wakes up. He's all scarred and scary looking. And she's like, "Wah!" And he's like, my favorite noise that a woman makes. And I was like, can you be any more of an edgelord? Like,
He is an edgelord. On the other hand, he does say, like, towards the end of the book, he's like, fuck, I know I'm ugly, but, like, do you have to be like this?
Yeah.
And, like, maybe that gives you a tiny bit of insight into poor Zsadist's psyche.
Zsadist, I hesitate to use the term broken for anybody, right? But, like, if anyone's going to be a broken character, is Zsadist. Like, that boy has, like, 1,800 different flavors of PTSD, and it's bad. And but anyway, and like, oh god, and this is like part of the reason that, like, as much as like I roll my eyes, I laugh, I scoff reading these books, I think that's part of it, is like these, like, it's catnip to me, these big asshole or big fucking alpha hole douche bros that are just like, oh yeah, gonna get the blood in the gut, and then like they meet their lady and they just melt. Like, they're still like gonna take care of shit, but also like now they're like, oh yeah. I just love it so much.
Yeah,
because it happens to all of them. They all get laid low and they love it.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I need you to read Vicious's book for me at the very least, please, because I'm really mad about poor Vicious.
Oh my god.
I'm really mad about it.
I know, like, I mentioned this, but I need to share with the world. So Kristen, who I mentioned earlier, who is big BDB fan.
Yeah.
When I started screaming about this book to her, she was like, huh. And she made a fucking spreadsheet of every book and the main characters that get together, which there are definitely spoilers on there. So I didn't go too, like, I did go super deep, but also, like, I don't recognize 90% of the names because there are 22 books in the series.
Sure, yeah.
But like, oh my goodness, like some of them I was like, I'm so excited. Like, so I will have to look at that spreadsheet and I'll let you, I don't know what book it is, but I'll go find out and I'll let you know how long you have to.
I know who the heroine is, and I know, like, I was so mad about it today that I went down a synopses rabbit hole, Dr. Jane something or other, and I think she might end up being a ghost. I don't know. I think his hand... Doctor? Yeah, I'm pretty sure his hand, like, makes her corporeal enough for them to, like, cuddle and have sex, but otherwise she might be a ghost.
If I've read that book, I do not remember it.
And, like, here's the thing. Listener, I'm really big mad about this because we haven't said this yet, but Butch ends up bringing her to the mansion when she starts going through the transition in the daytime when What's-His-Nuts isn't around. He thinks she's having, like, a drug withdrawal. So he takes her to the drug dealer, quote unquote. And then Wrath has to save her with his bloods or whatever. And then that's when Butch
meets Marissa.
I can't stand. No.
Oh.
Yes, but no.
Gets into a pissing contest with all the dudes?
No. More importantly to me, Melody meets his best friend and probable soulmate.
Oh, yeah.
And Vicious falls the fuck in love with Butch over the next few books, ends up having, and, like, I think they kiss at a couple of points. At Butch's induction ceremony, he, like, pulls Vicious's body against him so that they're, like, totally connected. It's a metric fuck ton of queer baiting. And then they both end up with chicks, but, like, Vicious ends up with a non-corporeal one, ? And, like, J.R. Ward is on the record at a panel. She told someone asked her if they would see any more of Butch and Vicious together on the page. And she says no, but they're seeing a lot of each other off the page. And apparently it's canon verbally with J.R. Ward saying that Butch and Vicious, like, hook up behind the scenes for their shellans, because also Butch ends up becoming a vampire, even though you're not actually able to turn humans into vampires, but, like, let's break all the rules. So apparently, according to J.R. Ward, they're, like, doing each other on the side, but not on the page because, quote unquote, too many people would be mad about it. Don't queerbait me and then be a coward. Don't. And, like, later on, I guess she writes an MM. I don't know anything about that though, because I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't read anymore. But I'm just really mad about Vicious. Poor Vicious. Why can't the boys kiss? Justice for fucking Marissa, because not only is she stuck with this asshole, apparently she has no idea that he's doing sex with his quote-unquote best friend. Fuck all of that. I'm so mad.
You really did go down a rabbit hole, Melody.
I have big feelings about this.
You know what, Melody?
What?
I'll bet there's something on AO3 for that.
I don't care.
Oh my God. Melody, now I'm mad. Like, I would have been happy to read Vicious's and Butch's books, and now I'm just mad that they are not. Okay, what about instead of reading either of their books, I'm just going to go read a couple of fanfics on AO3, and then I'll hop back into the series elsewhere.
No, you have to read Vicious's actual book because I need to know if it's
how
good
Ghost Doctor works.
Well, and if it's good for him being with a non-corporeal lady. Yes. I need to know that Vicious is happy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
anyway, we need to
listen.
We need to hit it off.
Out of nowhere, Wrath is like, will you marry me? I've decided that we no longer, that like, it doesn't matter. I'm not a loner anymore and I want to get married. And she's like, yes, I'm a vampire now. Thank you. I would love to marry you. And then he has an argument with the scribe virgin because
she asks too many questions and
she's mad that he hasn't like sought her advice as the quasi king for 300 years. And it's all so petty. Anyway, so she's like, you have to start worshiping me again, or like the future is bleak for vampire kind.
Vampires gonna die.
Yeah, okay, no worries. I'll stop being a brother and I'll start being a king. I will ascend. And then they have like a marriage ceremony in which they carve Elizabeth's name into his back. And like, how does nobody know that Marissa's not his true Shellan if they didn't actually carve her name into his fucking back? How?
They all know because they would have been at the wedding ceremony. Everybody knows that Marissa's not his true Shellan.
But they still want to murder Butch when they meet because FYI, the less important thing that happens is that Butch...
What? Because guess what?
Because pride?
People turn the other cheek when people aren't actually in a relationship anyway. Bitch, they were born in 1700. Them motherfuckers are built for marriages of convenience or Shellans of convenience.
but like, okay, but she's not allowed to have a little human on the side.
Have you read a single historical romance where the dudes are allowed to go do whatever the fuck they're allowed to, and then the lady rolls up and she's like, "Oh, I showed too much ankle, or I looked too long at that man," and people are like, "Ruined." You're stone her. Like.
So anyway, he meets Marissa and he's immediately like, you're beautiful. And she's like, no, I've never known I was beautiful in my whole life. Let me flip my 1920s blonde hair. Mm-hmm. And he's like, can I touch you? Can I give you a kiss? Even though I did. Oh my God. Butch is like, hey, sweetie,
fully accuses
can you stop
her?
The act? You're a big old whore for these vampire boys, and I don't need you to act like a virgin. Like, how much will it cost me for you to just, like, suck my dick already?
And it takes her so long to understand what's happening, and then she gets pissed. She stares at, she's like, how fucking dare you? And that's when he's like, I'm so sorry.
And so she's like, I've never had a tingle in my vagina before until you walked into the room. And he's like, you smell like ocean in my future. And then they have to, like, go other places. So now Wrath and What's-Her-Butt is married. And then the lesser, and then Marissa's brother goes off the deep end, and he's like, I need to get Wrath off the chessboard because he did fuck over my sister, and I'm not having that. And also, I haven't eaten in years, and it's not great up in my mind parts.
So he calls out Zsadist into an alley, and he's like, Zsadist, I will give you literally millions of dollars if you kill Wrath.
Zsadist, bless him.
Who was it? Phury? Phury comes and tells him because he's like, as much as I love my brother, I had to tell you. No, it was beforehand because Wrath is like, you cannot tell Zsadist that you told me and that I know because I'm going to have to kill him. So Zsadist then calls hours later, and Zsadist is like, yo, that's why when Wrath answers the phone, he's all like, huh? You got something to say to me, bro?
Oh,
you got
something to say to me, bro? Mad.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Zsadist tells him and then just hangs up. And then he calls Phury and Phury's like, please have mercy on him. And Wrath is like, fuck that. Why did he wait hours and hours and hours to call me? Which I still don't really understand why he waited hours to call. Did you catch that?
He had other stuff to do. He had a piercing to get. You know what I mean? Doesn't matter.
Get? You mean give himself?
Give himself. That's the one. Yeah, I mean, I dig it. I dig it hard. So anyway, then Phury's like, don't kill him. He wasn't going to do it. And Wrath is like, bullshit. And then
they all have a come to Jesus, love you, brother moment. And then the next day, Beth is like, maybe I can go out in the sunlight. And so Wrath is like, no, for the love of God, please don't. And he's all anxious because like he can't go after her if she's out in the sun. But she's like, it'll be fine. I'm just hungry. And he's like, well, call Fritz. And she's like, well, he had to deal with the blah, 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 blah. So she does go upstairs and turns out, guess what? As a half human, she can go out in the sunlight.
Yeah, maybe we don't suck so hard.
I don't know. She does get immediately kidnapped. So maybe it's not great that she can go out in the sun. So like she's upstairs making herself a sandwich. Mr. X has learned that name. Mr. X is like scoping it out because when Zsadist turned down Havers found a lesser. Well, a lesser found him and Havers turned around and was like, I got information for you, bro, if you don't kill me. And the lesser was like, wait, what? And so he was like, the king, you can go kill the king, and gave him the address. And so Mr. X goes to check it out. And then he's like, oh my fucking God, the blind king gets alive. Holy shit. And I'm about to steal his queen.
And his queen is right there.
And so she starts to run and Mr. X fucking knocks that door down. Because these lessers, like as much as they're called like sissies and pansies and weak and all this other fucking toxic
strong as shit. Yeah.
They're so scary strong. And he busts down the door like a rampaging rhino, fuckhead.
And then he tranquilized Dartser.
And pulls her away. And Wrath tries to run upstairs, but he cannot because he gets into the sun and the sun goes, bye-bye, baby. And he's like, I'm burning. And so he has to go back downstairs.
And then he has to call Butch.
Look how convenient it is to have a human in the midst.
Yeah. On the payroll.
And so he's like, I need you. I need you.
I need you. He says, and it hurts him.
Yeah.
Hurts him worse than that sun.
Mr. X takes Beth, hides her in this barn in this like country estate.
His torture barn.
Yeah. Everyone's got one of those.
Billy Riddle is there and he's stoked to, torture her some.
Well, yeah, because she's the reason that he got his face beat in by a dirty cop. Like, of course he's excited. Fucking all convoluted as shit.
Oh, also, he's a lesser now, and like nobody told him he would lose his functioning phallus.
So he's
and I'm pretty sure he's mad about that too.
Big mad about his dinky not working.
I have because earlier Mr. X was like, wow, yeah, when he saw the Omega, his face was priceless, and nobody would think that like pure evil would look like that. And I'm pretty sure he probably looks like a sweet little boy or something.
I don't remember what the Omega looks like. I don't remember.
Anyway, well, heavingbosospodcast@gmail.com. And then I shouldn't have said that. Everybody's going to email me about my hot takes. I'm so mad.
Email us only about.
That's it. That's the only thing my email is open to. I'm so sorry, everyone. Wait, and then, so here's the thing. Wrath knows where she is because they've drunk each other's blood.
Mm-hmm.
And so he sends everybody to go do a big explosion on that dojo and kill as many lessers as possible. And everybody's like, what are you going to do? What about the queen? And he's like, I'll take care of the queen.
And so he shows up in like a wrath tornado.
But he doesn't even like drop a vampire Google Maps pin or anything. Like, just in case something goes down. Nobody knows how to find him.
What the fuck do you think that he could have done in 2005?
He could have been like, I sense her in this rough region. Here you go.
I don't know that it's that deep.
Or, I don't know, he could have taken
somebody
one of them with him.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that crazy?
Yeah, there's a lot of things he could have done. But instead, he shows up and, so this is one thing. Vicious has premonitions. Is it Vicious who has premonitions? Yeah.
Yeah.
He can see little things in the future. And so he did have a memory so he remembers that Vicious said something to him about so Vicious's voice came to Wrath in a rush. 2 guards tortured will fight each other. And he remembers this because all of a sudden Mr. X has said, release the dogs. And so Billy Riddle lets these like pit bulls out. And these two pit bulls take off,
these
like
poor pit bulls have been abused for years. He keeps them hungry.
Justice for pit bulls.
Justice for those poor pit bulls. And like only one
and
of
so
them
like
lives.
they attack, and then one of them grabs hold of Beth because she comes and uses a ball peen hammer and swings the shit out of Mr. X's head, and he like collapses.
Yeah.
Dog bites her, and then Wrath is like, no, Beth, and he like grabs the pit bull off of him and just like throws it at the other pit bull. And I'm like, this is so fucked up, but like I just
And, like, I don't remember how he gets eviscerated, but I'm really hoping that it's because the pit bull...
It's the shotgun.
No. In my brain, it's because the pit bull had hold of his stomach, and when he threw that pit bull, it didn't let go.
It did just rip his whole stomach out.
That is what I believe forever now.
All right.
It might have been a shotgun. Who knows?
Regardless, Wrath is missing a fair portion of his abdomen.
His intestines are everywhere.
His poor paint rollers are just obliterated.
They're just spilled all over. Along with the paint.
Yeah. Ooh, boy, howdy.
Like, it's a gloppy mess over there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a color therapist, and we love red in hospitals. So anyway, if any of you understand that, that is a deep Tumblr reference. So anyway.
I didn't understand it. That's for darn sure.
I fucked it up, too. Actually, nobody listened to that. So anyway, I fucked it up. That was my one shot. If I was going to be a fucking Tumblr nerd, I should have done it with something like that I wouldn't fuck up. Like, I like your shoelaces. Yeah, thanks. I got it from the president. Like, why didn't I? Oh, God. Anyway, I fucked up, y'all. I fucked up. Anyway. So she ends up calling, gets the phone and calls and blah-de-blah, and they come save them, and she ends up hanging out with him. So Havers is taking care of him and making sure that he's not vampire deaded and that he's vampire alive-ed.
Yeah, because now he feels bad because he finds out that Marissa has been trying to tell him that she dumped Wrath. And not that Wrath dumped her.
Hey, check it out. Another time when maybe one of the men in this book could have just sat down and listened for a second.
Listened to a lady. It's hilarious. So then he's like, the reason I'm doing this is because I have to make amends.
Uh-huh. And I know I'm going to die at the end, but also like blah, blah, blah. So she stays with him. And God, this is when we have our little like, towards the end of the book, we have all these little baby moments with Zsadist, and it hurt my heart. And because like she looked out and she was like, oh, Wrath is feeling better because he had woken up like just a little bit and then fell back asleep. And because he held onto her hair, he could barely move. And then he grabs onto a lock of her hair and he's like,
he keeps on like jerking awake and then making sure she's there and okay, and then immediately like, passing out again.
Yeah, and so she gets up at one point and she goes to like check. She's like, I should go tell the boys that he's starting to wake up. And all of them are just like passed out.
They're
in the waiting area. Yeah, but like, and she's like looking around. She's like, where the fuck is Zsadist? And turns out he's sitting over on the side and he's like, I'm here. And he was like, yeah, we're just taking turns keeping
my turn to keep watch.
It's my turn to keep watch because like we're never ever gonna let anything happen to either of you. And like
and she's like, but you're a demon. And he's like, no, I'm just scarred. Is all.
Yeah.
Like I'm just a scarred boy.
Inside and outside. I'm just a sad puppy.
But he's so mean to Zsadist. Oh, and then like when Wrath finally wakes up, Havers is like, he told me to go fuck myself hard. In fact, what Zsadist says is, I'll kill for free as long as it's you for like trying to do a big treason on our King Wrath.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I know. Zsadist is chill. We're fine now.
Yeah, and then Wrath ends up like pardoning Havers because he gets it. He's like, I was shitty to Marissa, and I understand why you felt like you needed to get vengeance and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, cool, now that cool that you realized it after 300 years.
No, it's not even that, Sabrina. It's that there's one thing Wrath understands, and that is being off the chain at the business of vengeance. So,
oh man, this is when though like Wrath does apologize to Zsadist, and Zsadist is like, "Come on, man, what does it matter to me? You, Tor, Britney Spears." Like I was like, "Oh, yep, that's timely." And then, okay, so now we can really just hop, skip, and jump to the end. There's a couple of like last chapters that are essentially a bunch of different epilogues. And so this is when Jose goes to Butch's house, Jose, one of the cops, and realizes that Butch has just disappeared without a trace. He's just gone. Nobody knows where he is. End scene.
Because one of the things he's doing is he's going to ascend to the throne. He's having Tor take over because they're going to run the Brotherhood like a military operation now, and they need more recruits and they need to get serious, and everybody's going to go to church, God damn it. And one of those things is that all the boys are going to start living together at, I think, what becomes called the Pit, which I love. And Butch lives there now. He's part of the gang.
It's too bad we couldn't just like drop you into this series in like book 8. I bet you would have had a better time.
I bet. No, I bet. I honestly think so because I've heard that a lot of this stuff ages better later on. Or like, you know.
I'm just gonna like, I will say like, even loving this book, this first one was, boy, this first book was hard.
And that happens in a lot of series. It does.
Yeah.
It does. Like the authors get better with time. And I'm sure that's true here. Well, and
it's just like the time. Yeah, it's just there's a whole host of things happening. But yeah, so like now he's gone. And then this is when we have a scene of Darius in the Fade with the scribe virgin. And the scribe virgin and he are talking. And he's like, he doesn't ask for anything. But he's like, I would humbly request that I can at least see my daughter once. And the scribe is like, well, what if I do better than that? And he's like, deal. And she's like, you don't want to know the details? And he's like, nope, deal. And she was like, wish you were the king instead. You're so like mannersome and you don't ask me questions. Love that. All right, buddy, you're going back, but you won't remember anything. And at some point, one day, you will owe me a favor. And boom, Darius is being reincarnated as something. And I guess we'll find out later. As
a street urchin who is apparently also very sexually abused all the time. Because why? And he's mute.
That? From the synopsis?
I went down a rabbit hole.
Did you read a synopsis for every fucking book in the series?
No, but he ends up as a street urchin named John Matthew, who is mute because of trauma.
That's John Matthew?
Yes,
Kristen
that's
was
Darius.
Mentioning John Matthew. Okay. What book is he? Okay, I'll have to look later.
He's probably way later because he's a tiny traumatized boy who doesn't talk anymore because traumas. And apparently, I think it might be Vicious, who I think knows 16 languages because he's a goddamn king.
God.
And one of them is ASL because he found out that John Matthew doesn't speak. And so he taught himself ASL in order to be able to communicate with John Matthew.
These big macho baddies are so ooey gooey soft on the inside. It's not you fucking I'm shocked that pure fudge did not just fall out of fucking wrath when his tummy got. Oh my god. Though I do have to note because I almost peed myself when I read this because I was laughing so hard. I don't know why it tickled me so pink, but Beth, when she's on the phone talking about whatever was going on like to everybody after Wrath gets eviscerated, she's like, something in his belly. And I was like, really? His belly?
At least she didn't say Tommy. I probably would have said Tommy.
There's something wrong with his tum-tum.
Something's coming out of his tummy.
Yeah, his insides are outsides, ma'am.
It looks like a big snake.
I don't know why it tickled me so pink. It was just so funny. And then there was a super cute where like at the very end, like everyone's having dinner at Darius's house, well, Beth's house. And Fritz is just so happy to have people to take care of.
Fritz loves having a full house.
And it was so cute because she was like, and you're coming too, right, Fritz? Won't you please? And the butler was just like, wiggly tail.
His tail was wagging hard.
Yes, please. And I love a Fritz.
I just
love a Fritz.
Yeah, I love a Fritz. I want Fritz's book. I'll read Fritz's book.
Yeah, me too. The end.
Fritz gets to procreate because he has to maintain the servant class. It's what happens.
Yeah, those doggens.
More people will need doggens, and they don't live as long as other types of vampires.
We were just referencing, I wonder if that's why they're called doggens. We were just making it sound like Fritz was a happy golden retriever who got a ball.
Yeah.
The end.
All right, Sabrina, do you have a lady love?
Yes, I do have a lady love. It is when you are in a good place mentally, getting into good habits, even though you have the energy to do more, but getting into habits that you are capable of maintaining when you are not in a mentally well place. In my instance, it's accepted because I love to cook, but when I'm not doing mentally well, I am not capable of cooking. And so, or like cooking anything extravagant. And so I got in the habit of cooking myself passably healthy meals while I was doing well. And I have been making use of that. And you know what? It's fucking wonderful. Because
Like
it means that I
freezing
still
them?
have to. No. So it's more like buying raw tomatoes and avocados and like spinach and things like that. And for snacks, like baby carrots, because I'm not fucking cutting a carrot. Baby carrots, all pre-sliced mushrooms. And when I cook, I will basically put frozen fish in the air fryer because I can't be fucked enough to defrost it ahead of time. Stick that frozen fish in the air fryer and then cook like a pot of pastaroni or saute like a thing of mushrooms. And so basically minimal cooking and then just raw tomato and avocado and a spinach salad. And guess what? I'm getting my greens. I'm getting my fruits with my blueberries and my other miscellaneous things that I don't have to prep. Because guess what? You ain't got to prep a blueberry. You just grab a handful of them and you shove them in your mouth like a little fucking monkey.
True.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's my lady love. My lady love is good habits, getting into good habits that you can maintain when you are less than well. Yeah.
Fair enough.
That's
All
my
right.
lady love.
Actually, I'm gonna piggyback off of that because my lady love of late is veggie packed protein shakes. Because like especially like before my period or whatever, I like looking at a piece of spinach like turns my stomach sometimes. And I don't know why, because I fucking love that kind of thing. And so when I get in those spaces, I will trick myself into eating a metric fuck ton of greens by putting it into a chocolate protein shake. So I think I'm having dessert, but it is like, I don't know, 4 days worth of servings of spinach that I'm currently putting into my body, and it's amazing.
I love that. I might have to get some advice on that. I'm really bad at putting together protein shakes, but I know that those would be a good like breakfast option for me. So
literally for me, it's just the protein powder, sometimes a like tablespoon of peanut butter, because it like grounds it a little bit more, at least for my protein's like very, very sweet. So it grounds it a little, and then I pack the whole thing full of spinach, a bunch of soy or almond milk, ice, and that's it. Delish. Eat.
Huh.
Suck it down. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like literally an entire bag of spinach because I have a blender cup that's like this big.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, that's been working really well for me.
All right, so what it boils down to is our co-lady love is eat your greens, friends.
Get your greens however the fuck you can.
Hell yeah.
Do you have to trick yourself like a toddler? Own it. Do it.
Yeah. Do it.
All right. Keep being a badass and love yourself as much as you love being off the chain at the business of vengeance and having just enough pimp juice to get some.
I can't top that. Yep, love yourself that much. Bye.
Bye.